Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 3 of the NFL season. And on top of that, week 3 of the IDP Plus Start Sit Show. Excited to be here with you today, help you answer your questions, help you to bring home a victory. And I'm ecstatic to have with us this week the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Dynasty Stana, also known as Steve. Steve, how you doing today?
What's up, Ricky? I'm doing great this Sunday morning.
You're looking great. You're sounding great. That's awesome, and glad to have you here and all your expert advice because I know you've been playing IDP a long, long time.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so our listeners and viewers are going to have some real expertise to help them out today.
nice.
And but before we kick off the questions and all, you and I had a chance to talk briefly before the show, and there's some
Mhm.
interesting strategy stuff that we need to take in mind from an IDP perspective because of some of the trends that are happening on both offense and defense. So
Mhm.
for our audience, I thought it'd be great for them to get some of this context and some learning here, and then we'll go into the questions. So through 2 weeks, some amazing numbers. A very nice 69 passing TDs, um, which is the fewest since 2006. Only 7.1 average target depth on passes, the lowest on record. 41% designed run plays, the highest in run plays since 2008. 30 seconds per play, the slowest since 2008. 545 blitzes, the fewest on record. And then maybe one of the most important stats too is 46% too high safety percent, which is the highest on record. So Steve, putting on your strategy hat, giving guidance to our listeners and so forth,
Mhm.
what do you think that means for some of the specific positions, such as maybe linebacker and safety, when you hear some of those stats?
Yeah, this is a bit crazy, right? It's like, are we like going back to 90s old school football here?
Maybe even the 70s from when I
Yeah,
was growing up, Steve.
yeah, this is insane. The lack of passing touchdowns is just pretty incredible. So, I mean, kind of think about my leagues I'm in and if I'm like noticing scoring differences and like gut feeling, it feels like linebackers are down a bit. I which kind of doesn't seem to correlate, but just with the lack of passing volume in general, maybe it kind of does because so lower scoring, it feels like less um total plays being run. So those tackling opportunities just feel like they're down as well. So I'm really, wanting uh, the guys that are just out there the most, playing 100% of snaps, looking at total team snaps, maybe the whole bad defenses moniker comes a little bit more to fruition. So bad defense on the field more. Maybe some of those linebackers actually start doing a little bit better this year. The safeties being more high cover related maybe lowers their tackle opportunities as well. So yeah, I just think it's a bit crazy. I feel like we're gonna regress back to the mean a little bit here starting soon. So I'm not like panicking about that kind of stuff yet, but I am being a little more diligent in my research purposes as far as like who's basically on the field the most at this point, and trending towards trying to get those guys into my starting lineups over maybe some of those bigger splash play dependent players. You said blitzing was at an all-time low, so less sacks potentially from some of those tweener linebacker types. But yeah, it's all kind of really interesting.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to watch this trend over the next several weeks because another stat I did in researching, getting ready for the show for our listeners, is that this is the youngest average age of quarterbacks, and I
Mm,
forgot if it was the last 20 years or 25 years or some number. And so you have a lot of rookie quarterbacks who they're trying
mhm,
to protect as well. So teams are playing slower. They're trying
mhm,
to make it easier for the quarterback with the short dump offs. And with those safeties playing deep, really impacting their scoring as well. So keep some
mhm.
of those things in mind, particularly when you have some flex spot decisions. Maybe there was a safety in the past that you liked. a Derwin James type, for example,
Mhm.
who's been playing a little bit more deep than normal this year.
Mhm.
Maybe he's not in your lineup, and maybe you're looking for that fourth or fifth linebacker, depending on how deep your league is, as opposed to one of those safeties in the flex.
Yeah, it's a
Let's
great point. Like Derwin James, no longer like an auto start. I don't think, guys like that. It's a great point.
that's right. So let's jump into the questions and fantasy breakout. One of our regulars jumped in way before the show. So welcome fantasy breakout, and he's got a few questions we're going to start here with. First one, he has Mosley injured and Winfield injured, and boy, I tell you what, the carnage of injuries on defense and offense, both for the first few weeks, have been absolutely phenomenal. But with that, who should he pivot to? Jermaine Pratt, Kazir White, EJ Speed, or a Bucks linebacker? I don't know if he has them all between Levante David and KJ Britt and Servasia Dennis. So out of those, Steve, which one well, he's got two injured. So who would be your
Mhm.
top two on this list in what order?
So I went to the IDP Plus Handy Dandy weekly rankings just to see what our rankers are thinking this week. And this week they're pointing to, and I think I agree, to EJ Speed and Kaiser White there. The Colts are playing the most defensive snaps in total in the entire league through 2 weeks. So small sample size, but just as I said earlier, I want the guys that are on the field. And so EJ Speed definitely on the field a ton. That whole team defense is on the field a ton. So he's an easy one for me. The next being Kaiser White is also pretty easy. I know, so it's tough looking at Jermaine Pratt coming off the monster game, but I feel like that was very game script dependent there, matchup dependent. So he's not going to be walking away with, what was it, like 16 tackles every single week there. And Kaiser White is pretty darn consistent, plays 100% of the snap. So give me those two of those choices there.
And I'm aligned with you in that. And the Bears, who are Caleb Williams is really struggling. You've got to assume they're going to try and establish the run game and to give him an opportunity to start feeling a little bit more confident, maybe with some shorter passes as well. So I love speed from that regard. And on the Bucks linebacker side of things, let's just touch on Servasia and KJ Britt. Servasia actually played 52% of the snaps last week versus Britt's 48. To your point and what we were talking about earlier with some of those stats early on, that's not going to do it in terms of helping you to win your leagues if they're splitting those snaps 50-50. Now, does Servasia take over? I'm not sure. I think he was in more because of passing down consideration versus Brett more rundown. So thoughts on those two gentlemen before we go to the next question?
Yeah, I've been really disappointed by Britt. I thought he had the linebacker 2 role all but locked up there between his play and leadership qualities from last year. But this year so far, yeah, they're basically splitting time. Now the first game, I believe, may have been a bit more game script related. They kind of blew out Washington, so we were kind of like thinking, he probably just came out, so no injuries, things like that. And, let's see what Dennis has got. But then the last game, that was a tight game the whole way through. And Dennis, like you just said, ended up getting the slight majority of the snaps. So I'm close to pushing panic on KJ Britt right now. Definitely in some shallower leagues where I was rostering him, I've dumped already for stronger, more consistent options. I haven't picked up a lot of Dennis yet, just because I'm still a bit, cautious and not sure, what that role is going to end up. But of course, he's getting the splash plays too right now, which doesn't help Britt's case. If the coaches are looking at that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm a bit panicked on Britt, and I'm being a little bit pragmatic on Dennis still. And I kind of am just leaving them both to see how it shakes out until one really starts consistently getting that 80 to 85%, for multiple games in a row. I kind of don't want to touch either right now.
Agreed. Okay, let's go to our next question from Fantasy Breakout. And by the way, Fantasy Breakout jumped in to the YouTube channel, got the questions posted very early. So if you want to
Nice.
get near the top of the list, you can take advantage of it, just like Fantasy Breakout. He's like, hey, don't share my secrets, so guys. The other
Smart.
thing I wanted to mention, you referenced earlier our rankings tools on IDP Plus, where we have all the positions, offense and individual defense ranked. And we also have a snap count tool as well. So if you want to see the snap counts that we've been talking about quite a bit already this morning. And we have
Mhm.
several other tools that'll help you as well. So I encourage you to go to IDP Plus and give it a check. Now with that, let's go to the next one. And this one's a pretty tough one. If you only have to play one, you could argue it's an embarrassment of riches to start the year, but Blackman with the Colts or Buddha or Quentin Lake, who's playing that star position with the Rams.
Yeah. So some of the research I'm doing on these three points allowed by position, and I'm seeing all three of these matchups as top 10 matchups. So not only are these all really good players, but they all have really good matchups as far as opposing points given up to the position here. So this is really tough. I am leaning just because of that, leaning towards Lake. Just because I think he's got a better he's kind of this younger guy that's up and coming right now. So I think he's got a lot to prove. We've been seeing Nick Cross go bananas over the first 2 weeks. Again, probably chalking a lot of that up to the Colts being on the field so much. But against this Bears offense, it has still a lot to figure out. I could see him being, I'd probably put him third, and then Lake and Buddha is like 1A, 1B right now. So yeah, I just got it's more of a gut feeling at this point, to be perfectly honest. With Lake, I could see him coming away with splash play. The tackles have been pretty good. Isn't Cameron Curl like injured? Is that what I've been seeing?
It's not that Cam Curl's injured. John Johnson was the one that was
Oh,
injured.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that him being injured probably doesn't affect Lake very much. I don't think they were splitting any sort of snaps. But yeah, I don't know. Give me Lake on this one. Coin toss.
It's very close. And with
Yeah.
Blackman coming back from an injury, even though
Yeah.
he played most of practiced most of the week with no issues and so forth. I think he was full participant every day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do worry about the Bears offense, to your point, staying on the field to give Blackman those opportunities. Something's happened to this Colts run defense this year, and with DeForest Buckner going on IR as well, more stuff could be heading that way, and hopefully Franklin and Speed will be cleaning it up a little bit better than they have been, and it's not getting to the secondary. I'm with
Mm-hmm.
you. It's very close, Lake and Baker. Um, I would go with Baker just simply because I think Detroit's offense will be on the field, but boy, it's really close fantasy
Yeah.
breakout. You could flip a coin on those two. Blackman would be the third one that we'd be pulling out just because of that coming back from the injury.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. All right. One last from fantasy breakout, which is and it always scoring systems, folks. For those of you that are watching, please, where you can give us a little bit of information on your scoring systems because we don't always necessarily remember from week to week. But Will Anderson, Chris Jones, Justin Simmons from the Titans. Very interesting. Anderson had a 1.5 sacks last week. Chris
Yeah.
Jones had a half a sack taken away in a stat correction. Hopefully, you weren't in a close game that impacted you. And I said Justin Simmons, sorry. And then we have Jeffrey Simmons going against Green Bay, which most are anticipating will be Malik Willis, despite the games Green Bay's trying to play. So, your thoughts on those three, Steve?
So I'm a huge Will Anderson guy. So just on that non-stat related point alone, I'm leaning Anderson here. Also because he's an outside edge rusher versus two interior guys, and all D line is very volatile. Let's be honest, but I feel like you get a tad more consistency and a tad more upside from your more outside edge rushers there. Chris Jones would probably be so similar to how the last ones just went. I'd probably have Chris Jones as 3 because he doesn't get tackles. He's a sack or bust guy. Most of his stat lines are like 1 tackle and 1 sack every week. So he's always, I don't know. He's always like, I want a smash matchup. And last week, the Falcons against Eagles, I played all my interior defensive linemen, mostly Jalen Carter shares, because I figured seeing week 1, Kirk not being able to move around much, I thought they were going to hammer Kirk, especially from the interior. And it just really didn't happen there. So I get a little worried there with Chris Jones and opportunity. Like he could very easily come away with a sack, no problem. So if your sack scoring is like ridiculously high, he is a solid floor option, but again, he doesn't really get you many tackles to go along with that stuff. So really, for me, it's between Simmons and Anderson, and I just lean Anderson. I think that Minnesota's been playing really well. Over unders at 46.5, so that's one of the higher ones of the week actually. So I feel like this could go back and forth, and I just think Anderson's going to be on the field more with more opportunities to get home against Darnold there. So I'm taking Will Anderson on that one.
Well, fantasy breakout, we're going to make it tough on you because I'm going to go slightly opposite of Steve on this one. And Steve just gave some outstanding logic. So Chris Jones ended up playing 80% of the snaps against Cincinnati last week, which was very high for him. And all part one. Part two is Anderson. The Vikings have two outstanding tackles with Darisaw and O'Neal on the edges. And so I know they have Hunter on the other side as well. And it could be the Hunter revenge game, by the way. Could be Jonathan Grenard revenge game on the other side of things as well.
Very true.
But the Atlanta Falcons offensive line was rated very well from a run perspective, but not as highly as a pass perspective. Caleb McCary, in particular, the right tackle, really has struggled in pass protection both last year and early this year. Chris Jones on certain pass situations has been moving out to the edge. I have a feeling, once again, it goes back to scoring system. Chris Jones beats the right tackle for the Falcons for a sack this week. That's what my gut says.
Yeah.
But Simmons isn't a bad pick either. Sweat is doing a phenomenal job eating up things on the inside and freeing up Simmons more. So Simmons is a good opportunity. Once again, three great options. Steve's leaning Anderson. You've heard me say Jones. Good luck, fantasy breakout, in making that final decision here.
Yeah, I don't think Sweat has recorded a statistic yet, but like he's a monster in there. Like I don't even think he has a tackle yet. But you're absolutely right. Like he's just like taking up a lot of space there in Tennessee. It's pretty cool.
Exactly right. Physically, I mean, 300 and okay, they're saying 340, whatever. He looks a wee bit more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, fantasy sports has come in. Welcome back in this week, fantasy sports. Which two safeties should I start? Blackman coming up again, Lake coming up again, plus Hamilton and Curl. I know I had my first two, but let's see what you have to say, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke already on two of those guys. Hamilton, despite the slow start, we've the second you bench him, he's going to go off. So for me, it's a quick Hamilton and Lake. Curls just, I feel like has been a bit disappointing to start off the year. So for me, that's a Hamilton Lake because I'm not missing out on the Hamilton breakout game. I'll eat the bad games to reap the benefits of the breakout there.
The thing I worry about Hamilton, and so I'm with you on Lake, and even though we talked about Blackman's injury, Hamilton is just not producing. So Steve brings up a good point in terms of, Hamilton's always can come up with those big games, but right now I'm going Lake and Blackman. I just love the tackle floor that I think Blackman's going to give. Even though, like we talked about, come back from that injury. But with this circumstance, I'm Lake and Blackman, Lake and Hamilton from Steve. If you're looking for maybe a big upside, Hamilton might be the one you go with, fantasy sports.
Yeah, it's a floor ceiling play, right? If you want to risk it a little bit more, Hamilton. If you want the safer floor, Blackman. Totally agree.
All right. And one more from fantasy sports. Which three linebackers should I start? And boy, there's some interesting names in here. So couple of these we wouldn't have even been debating when we started the year, Steve, but now here we are debating them. So Zaire Cashman with no Pace being out this week,
right?
Aluakon and Dodson. So what are you thinking here?
Okay, let me see here. So a cool resource I'm looking at linebacker tackles allowed by team. So let me see where they rank up against there. Seattle. So okay, Miami prior to the Tua injury was giving up the third most tackles to linebackers. So prior to that, I would have been a smash for Dodson, but now we've got very risky, kind of questionable quarterback in there with Skylar Thompson. So that makes me pause a bit on Dotson. I mean, how can you bench Oluokun and Franklin right now? They're still studs. I know. Well, I don't know what Jacksonville's doing this year with the snap shares between Oluokun and Lloyd. Like, neither are playing 100% of the snaps, which is interesting. But I just can't. I don't know how you could bench Foye there, and then Franklin's still 100% snap share guy. Indy, let's see that matchup.
While you're looking that up, let me throw a
Yeah,
stat out at you about Dodson.
yeah,
Skylar Thompson has when he's played, has one of the highest percentage of throws to running backs.
right. Very true.
And so that could help out Dodson for some short tackles out in space in the passing game as well.
Yeah, very true. Boy, oh boy, yeah. See, and Indy's got Chicago, which is of the four, I believe. Where's Jacksonville? Yeah, Jacksonville's on. So of the four matchups, Indy has the worst one as far as purely tackles being given up to the linebacker position. But as I just said earlier, Indy's been on the field the most, so it's really hard. The next worst matchup would be Minnesota against Houston. But it's still a good matchup, giving up 14th most, so right in the middle there. So now we do have Joe Mixon probably out, Damian Pierce out, so it's Cam Akers. Is Houston going to maybe rely a bit more on the pass with a less reliable running back there and less opportunity? So this is another one, sort of embarrassment of riches, but give me bench Cashman. As hard as that is to say without Ivan Pace, like you said. So he's going to be out there for 100% of the snaps. But I just feel like I'm going game script there, prediction that I just think Houston's going to pass a lot more than run this week with basically only one healthy running back available. And he's, not been he's been injured every year for the past few years. So like maybe they take it easy with him this week, especially if they're going to need him for a few weeks. I don't know how bad the Mixon and Pierce injuries are. So I'm going to say bench Cashman on this one, but this is really, really tough.
I'm going to go with you as well. I'm going to bench Cashman as well. Very, very tough. Watching Oluokun this week in the snap count share and the way they're trying to rotate and give Chad Muma a little bit of playing time, Ventrell Miller. We heard after week one it was because of the heat down there in the South, and they were trying to keep them fresh for the whole game. It's never been a problem for Oluokun in the past. Not sure what all of a sudden Ryan Nielsen feels he needs to do that, but I'm still going to roll with those three. And the thing about Oluokun this year too, they put Lloyd in the Mike position, they put Oluokun in the Will, but yet Lloyd was playing like 75% of snaps last week. Oluokun was like 83. So something we definitely need to keep an eye on as the year progresses.
And in that Miami game, quickly before we switch, he could go. They could go full Harbaugh and just not trust Thompson at all. Passing volume gets totally nerfed, and they just run the ball as much as possible, which is going to give Dotson a ton of opportunities as well as probably a good amount of dump offs there. So, actually thinking about it, as long as Miami's D can stop, keep the game close and not allow Seattle to completely blow them out, this game could stay close. Maybe low scoring. The over under is only 41.5, and the point spread's only 4, so that's still pretty darn close. I actually really like Dotson of that bunch.
All right, you're in. Okay, we got it. All righty. We go to the offense side with TM. Who am I starting? Who is he starting that you recommend? The Jaden Daniels Heisman Trophy winner from the LSU or Jared Goff?
Let's see how unbiased you can be on this one. All right, let's see. Detroit, Arizona, I believe it's the highest over under of the week. So that already has me leaning Goff because I don't believe Jaden Daniels has thrown a touchdown yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. But he's still ranked the top 10 QB without throwing a passing touchdown.
Absolutely. No, that's
Steve, you're starting
impressive.
to lean
So
towards the wrong answer. I'm telling you now.
so right, imagine if he does start to throw touchdowns, right? Same Cincinnati. Oh, Cincinnati's got a tough defense. Yeah, and so I also went to our rankings, and Goff and Daniels are pretty darn close. They're only separated by 3 players. So Goff, we have 7th, Daniels 11th on the week. So I am going to still lean Goff. I think we know where you're headed, but this is, again, sort of an embarrassment of riches here. This is 2 really good weeks. Honestly, though, weekly, I would lean Daniels. It just seems like I like the matchup a little bit more for Goff this week, hoping for a shootout there with Arizona. So give me the lean towards Goff. But like, if you wanted to go Daniels, I'm not gonna scream and yell at you and say that's the wrong choice.
Yeah. So it is in a dome stadium, which most of Goff's games are this
Yeah.
year, and he does play better in domes, but he plays better in domes at home.
Yeah.
Arizona's defense played particularly well. Now the Rams are beat up on offense, so forth.
Yeah.
So, but I still think Daniels in that running capability will serve him well. The Commanders will also be facing the Bengals front that will be without Sheldon Rankins, who's been ruled out, and B.J. Hill, who
they're both out.
He's doubtful, but they expect him not to play.
Doubtful is basically out these days.
Exactly. So I could see Brian Robinson having a big running game, and I can see Daniels with some quarterback draws as well.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards Daniels on this one.
Okay. I think it's safe. So I love to put it in these terms. Your ceiling upside gambling play is easily Daniels. If you maybe want a little more safety floor, Goff. I think that's a fair way to put it.
I would agree with you on that one. And TM has one more question for us.
All right.
Which still on the offensive side of things, one for this week and rest of season.
Oh, that's quite a list there for just one option. I mean, honestly, this is impossible to assign one guy for rest of the season. I mean, for me, in JSN there is probably the easiest one. We finally got the breakout last week. So I guess I want him over the rest of the season. But boy, for this week, holy moly, that's a large list to choose from. I could see Thielen going off with Dalton very easily, but and everyone kind of getting a jolt there. But Vegas defense is really good, and that's a low over under.
I'm with you. I'm going JSN for both this week and the rest of the season out of this whole
I was
list.
headed. Yeah, just for both of them. I mean, he's the superior talent out of all of them for sure. Although McConkey I do like a lot, but just the passing volume isn't going to be there. And Herbert, is questionable, if he's even going to play, and then moving forward. So, he plummets like a rock out of this whole group with not only because of the passing volume alone, but especially if they're going to be without Herbert. That stinks for McConkey big time. So, yeah, they get JSN for both.
Exactly right. Okay.
But I do just keep Thielen if you want to gamble or you're going for that touchdown. I can easily see Thielen coming away with 60, 70 yards, 5, 6 catches and a touchdown this week.
I'm not as confident on the red rifle there. He should be doing better than Bryce Young. I don't disagree, but I think Deontay Johnson would be the man over Thielen. I think he's going to make Thielen actually lost his cool, which was very unusual for him last week. But I still think Deontay Johnson will get it as opposed to Thielen. Fair. All right, let's pick between some linebackers here. J.K. Kelly, too, is asking, Speed, Josie Jewell, Spector, or Shaq Thompson? So we got 2 Panthers in here, Speed and Spector.
Yeah, so they unfortunately draw one of the worst as far as tackles to the position matchups in Vegas, sitting at 24th this week for the Carolina crew. So although both of them have been playing 100% snaps, which is really encouraging for their rest of season value, it's tough, and you're always going to pick the wrong one. I feel like when you have both of them on your team, so that's going to be super frustrating. Speed is a lock for me. He's
Agreed.
easily in there. The other three, man, is what is Spectre and Jacksonville is even a worse matchup for as far as simply just looking at tackles to the position. They're third to last, as far as matchups go. So give me Speed, and I'm just gonna flip a coin between Jewel and Thompson and say Jewel.
I'm with you too. So I was there with Speed.
Yeah,
Spectre had never had more than 4 tackles in a game until last week,
yeah.
and
I
and
want to see
so
more.
exactly. And then the thing that's exactly right. Let's see. There was a reason it went from Edmonds to Bernard and not Spectre. So he's basically the third string middle linebacker if you think back over a couple of years.
Yeah,
And I just think, unfortunately, even with the red rifle, I don't think this would be a very close game. I don't think it's, and I can see late in the game, Zamir White and Alexander Madison just running the ball, and
yeah.
Jules Shaq will pick up some tackles there. And I'm going to go with the younger guy in this case with you with Josie Joel. So Speed and Jewel are our suggestions for you, Mr. Kelly. All right, Ant needs 2. Buddha, Quentin Lake, or Alante Taylor. Quentin Lake and Buddha are pretty popular questions
Yeah.
today. But Taylor has done a fantastic job out of the slot. He's been playing a ton of snaps out of there. They blitzed him a lot week 1, not as much week 2. But he still had eight combined tackles, if I remember correctly, off the top of my head. So out of Buddha, Lake, and Taylor, which 2 are you thinking, Steve?
Yeah, so I think this is actually a rough matchup for Taylor this week. Let me see what um the Eagles do give up a lot of points to corners though. I just feel like if he's a slot guy though, like eh, the
Yeah.
Eagles feel like a bad matchup. Like I feel like their boundary corners, like Adebo will do well. But the slot, yeah, the past 2 weeks, I'm trying to think. Yeah, so I don't think it's a good matchup for a slot corner against Philly with no AJ Brown, Devontae Smith on the outside. Like, I just give me the safeties and the more consistency there. Just I know it's really tough to look at Taylor scoring out of the gate here, which is insane, but I just get a little nervous with corners, and I just think it's a bad matchup this week for him.
Yeah, so despite Britton Covey catching 6 passes out of the slot for 23 yards, I believe it was
Yeah.
last week, I think Philadelphia's going to figure out something a little bit different
Oh
than
God!
that this
Don't
coming
remind
week.
me. Why did you have to remind me about that? God.
Sorry about that, Eagles fan. But I'm going to roll with the safeties as well. In a cornerback required league, I am playing Taylor. But in this particular question, I'm going to go with the 2 safeties as well, Buddha and Lake, who I think both will finish in the top 10 this week.
Yeah.
We have Rougarou, my buddy from Louisiana.
Nice.
Rougarou, always glad to have you here. Yes, it's an Eagles
Go
hat.
Birds.
Hey, Rougarou, I was desperate to have somebody else join the show, and that's how we ended up with him. No, just kidding. Steve is an incredible expert, but Rougarou, our Saints are going to take care of those Eagles. I'm feeling good. The Saints are going to 3-0. I'm right there with you, bud, and glad to have you as always this week. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, I'm not feeling great about this week.
All right, let's go back to the offensive side of the ball. Perine, Chandler, Edwards, or Cam Akers. So Andrea here has is probably having some injury challenges. I'm guessing by the looks of this question, and a challenge. I don't know if his running back 2 or his flex spot, but either way, it's got a challenge here. I know I have my thoughts, Steve, but you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, let me look at some matchups here real quick if you've
Okay.
already got some thoughts.
All right, so I'm actually going with Akers on this one. Now, do I think Houston would throw more, as Steve brought up previously? Yes, absolutely, I do. Gus Edwards and Dobbins are both playing 40% of the snaps roughly, but if you look 40+%, but if you look at what Dobbins is doing with his versus what Edwards done with his, you could see a little bit of more of a shift toward Dobbins. Chandler, He's done well with some relief, but with Aaron Jones healthy, I don't want to play Chandler. And who knows in the Kansas City backfield? Yeah, I read this morning that Carson Steele is supposed to get the start, but he also had a fumble last week. And P. Ryan is a solid veteran who's trustable, and he's trustable in pass blocking. And the Chiefs are also supposed to start now Wanye Morris at left tackle today.
Right.
So that the rookie, the second rounder, whose name I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to try and pronounce it, got benched. So I could see them wanting someone who they really trust with experience to help protect Mahomes, which could mean more Pirine in passing situations. But that doesn't mean he's going to go out for a lot of passes, maybe gets a couple of dump offs. So the person here that I think has the most guaranteed touches and has a chance of potentially following the end zone is Cam Akers. So I could see 15 carries for 60 yards, 2 to 3 catches for about 13 yards, and potentially a touchdown. So that's why I'm leaning towards Akers right now.
Yeah, this is actually super easy. Unfortunately, I just looked up some of the matchups. Like these are all terrible running back points per game given up so far matchups. Like they're all in the 20s or worse. So these are unfortunately are all ridiculously bad matchups. And we're going to be wrong here. I guarantee you. Somebody's going to get it. Like Gus is going to get a random touchdown that'll give him more points. But this is super easy. It's Cam Akers because he's the only one that's going to be guaranteed the overwhelming majority of his touches. Yeah, we'll probably see some Dare Ogunbowale like third down dump offs possibly, but I mean, other than that, it's going to be Cam Akers. So that's super easy, despite all of the matchups being terrible.
Yeah. So what was interesting, it took me 5 minutes to say what it took you 10 seconds to say. So thank you, Steve. All right. Evan Smith here. Can we rank these four? Once again, we unfortunately we don't have. Let's see if we have any scoring context. I'm looking from Evan. I don't see it right here, but so we'll have to just wing it on that part. But Spillane, Gary, Joseph, Joey Bosa, excuse me, and Blake Cashman. I'm going to lean towards the linebackers, not knowing the scoring system. But Steve, your thoughts?
I always, if people don't drop it and it's kind of these mixes between the edge rushers and the standard linebackers, I kind of just assume like balanced scoring. Unfortunately, we like to play in leagues where sacks are scored more appropriately, but I feel like unfortunately the majority of leagues kind of like to suppress scoring and go tackle heavy or balanced if we're lucky. So yeah, I kind of lean the true linebackers here as well without knowing that. So yeah, guys, just if you're going to drop kind of these mixed positions, mainly let us know tackles and sack scoring. Anything besides that doesn't really matter to a huge extent. And Evan, if you're still here while we're talking, I'll try to keep an eye out if you can drop it in there but I'm gonna assume that it's probably not some sacks end up being 10 points with the stack scoring or anything like that. So yeah, that would pretty easily be the two traditional linebackers in Spillane and Cashman. Now, if you want to go Gary versus Bosa, just head to head, despite him being questionable, I'm gonna lean Bosa over Gary. Gary's back to being frustrating, right? Like week 1 was okay. I think he got a sack, not a lot of tackles, and then week 2 a 0, which is what he's been doing, his entire career. And despite I was always giving the benefit of the doubt because he's always banged up, injured, and whatnot. But man, I'm really getting annoyed by him lately, with these zeros. You can't be giving me zeros anymore. So Bosa's rarely going to give you a 0. So if we're looking at just those two heads up, I'm gonna go Bosa.
So in terms of let's see, Evan just popped in. Yeah, scoring is 1.5 per solo tackle. Sacks stack up for 8 points.
That's not terrible, but I think I'm still going with the Spillane Cashman guys.
Okay.
All right. Maybe you could squeeze Bosa in there, but. Yeah.
So rank the 4 of them because he did ask us to rank them. So which order would you do the 4?
Give me Spillane, Cashman, Bosa, Gary.
So I'm with you, except for I'm actually flipping Gary and Bosa. I don't disagree with you that Gary is frustrating. Yeah. And I thought going to the 4-3 this year, it would actually help him out even more. Hasn't yet. But the thing
Yeah,
with Joey Bosa is every other week it feels like he's out of the game. He's got a
I know.
finger, a wrist, an ankle, a hip, a toe, toenail. I mean, it's always something with Boza. So
Yeah.
just for fear of Boza getting hurt in the first quarter, I'd rather have Gary maybe on the field for all four quarters. So that's the
Mhm.
only thing I'd flip on that one. Thank you,
Yeah.
Evan. And then last one from Evan with zero point 0.1 point per punt return, or excuse me, per return yard. Nick Cross, Blackman, Love, who's put up good stats, but is playing a lot of deep free safety. I looked it up
Yeah.
earlier today, and Keyshawn Nixon.
Oh boy. Oh, the return yards are so juicy to that's pretty good. Point one. For one, so that's basically 1 per 10. So um boy, oh boy. Oh. Do you have thoughts on this one while I try to scramble and come up with an informed opinion?
Yeah, so it's a great question here.
Miami.
This with the Seattle defense and the way Love has been able to get a ton of tackles. While we love playing Dotson and so forth, the other thing, Jerome Baker's out, so you can have the rookie Tyrese Knight in there,
Ooh.
which could mean for more opportunities flowing to the secondary with Love. And Blackman being back and with that Gus Bradley defense of Cross playing the free safety and Blackman playing more towards the line, I'm
Mhm.
going to go Blackman and Love in this one. Cross played in Blackman's role last week, and I know Cross had a big week one as that free
Mhm.
safety. But I'm going to lean towards Blackman and Love. I'm not going to let the zero point 0.1 per return yard influence me too much on this one.
Good call. And that helped me. Oh my God. And the point total for that Green Bay game is 37. So maybe not a lot of kick return opportunities either for Nixon there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. I just get worried with Love a bit. And I know it's like, it's very risky starting two players on the same team. But if if some one of them goes off, you'll be very happy and can kind of eat the possibly reduced scoring of the other. Because I'm just worried about Miami's passing offense and is anything even going to get to to the third level? But you still have Tyreek Hill, you still have some insane playmakers on that Miami offense, and the system hopefully will lead to still some big play opportunities there that Love can potentially get tackles on. So yeah,
Now he's saying
oh
Quentin
boy.
Lake is a free agent and he could pick up
I
Lake.
love Quentin Lake.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I'd be picking up Lake. And if you had to drop out of those other four, which one you dropping?
I guess you got to drop Nixon, but
I would drop
nobody
Nixon
wants
too.
to do that because of the returns. Oh my God,
I'd go Blackman and Lake.
yeah, yeah. Blackman and Love of the four original, and I think I agree. Blackman and Lake, um, drop Nixon there. Maybe see if you can pull off a quick trade, but if it's a redraft, I wouldn't worry too much about it. And then Nixon's games are going to be so spiky and fluky. Like unless you're locking him into your starting lineup every week, you're going to get really frustrated trying to pick the weeks that he actually goes off where the return yardage factors into his scores. So just a tough player to roster, I think.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point about the low scoring game, which means probably not as many kickoffs and less chances of or opportunities for him to return anything. So,
Unless it's like a
um,
billion field goals like Washington the other week, but
exactly right.
it's tough to bet on.
All right, another defensive back question:
Mm.
Trent McDuffie or Blackman?
I think this is
From
pretty easy, right? Blackman, McDuffie. I was thinking Snead because maybe not quite as easy, but I'm still gonna go Blackman there. I just always tend if I don't know how big I'd be interested to understand the starting lineup requirements. Like, are you starting like four defensive backs and possibly some flexes? Because then I could see wanting to take a chance, maybe on a bigger play upside of a corner there. But if you're starting like one or two defensive backs, I'm almost taking the safety every time.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one as well. I'm rolling with Blackman as well on that one.
Yeah.
All right, Rugaru, man alive. I'm not sure what you did, but you need to pull
Whoa.
out the voodoo dolls or something to give you some help here. But Trevor Lawrence or Gardner Minshew?
Holy
Wow.
crap, that is gross.
And Trevor Lawrence going against Buffalo's defense, which is playing way better than I certainly expected this year. And then you have Minshew and the Raiders going against the Carolina Panthers. Really bad defense. I am rolling with Gardner on this one.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Your enthusiastic
Listen,
support for that
go
answer,
with Ricky.
Steve.
I'm gonna say Lawrence, but honestly, go with Ricky's suggestion on that one. I'm just like, they have to figure it out in Jacksonville sooner than later, right? So like, again, and I'm gonna feel like crap if I miss out on a Lawrence breakout game. But yeah, it feels like it's definitely not coming. I'm gonna say Lawrence, but I'm not confident in it whatsoever. So I would go with Ricky on that one.
Yeah, and Anton Harrison, the right tackle for Jacksonville, has just been abused so far this
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
And so I could see Von Miller and Arusso for those. Boy, if you're looking for a deep flex option there, consider Von Miller even with 38-40% of the snaps. I
Mhm.
just Jacksonville's O-line is just not doing the job to give Lawrence the time to go deep with what he has the potential to do with Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis as well. So but Gardner Minshew, 30% of his passes were at or behind the line of scrimmage. So so that's why he had such a high completion percentage, but it
Yeah.
worked for him to get him the victory over the Ravens. So I'm going to roll with Gardner.
Yeah.
And Rugaru, man, I'm sorry that's what you got to choose from.
Yeah.
Don't disagree with you on
Uh,
dynasty. If I have a dynasty team and I need a quarterback, I'm looking to trade for Jaden Daniels.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, DJ, as in I'm assuming
Hi,
DJ
boy.
Moore,
Yeah.
Drake London, or Carson Steele in the flex. I'm going to take Carson Steele out. That'll be that's I'm taking him out of the three. Would you agree with that, Steve? And then
Yeah,
it's,
big time. Yeah.
and then it's
Just
DJ Moore against Drake London and Drake London. Now I have to admit, as the season started, I had Drake London as a top 10 wide receiver
I know.
for the
Yeah, me
year.
too.
Kirk Cousins, obviously, there was still concerns about how far he's fully back health wise. So I'm certainly not giving away Drake London on the cheap, but do you trust DJ Moore?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I hate that Chicago has Shane as Adam Levitan from Established Run likes to call him Shane Fraudrin. Like that, it's so frustrating that they brought him in to be the OC, and look what it's doing to the Chicago offense. It's putrid. But I'm gonna just bet that they slowly start to figure it out. The matchup is a lot better for DJ Moore versus Kansas City's D. They know when they are really good at shutting down the stars, right? So like I would, Mooney might have a decent game, but like I feel like they're gonna just shut London down. So yeah, give me DJ Moore relatively easily on that one. I think Chicago starts to figure it out this week.
Yeah, and the Colts cornerbacks are really, really struggling as well. The
Mhm.
Colts defense overall is struggling, and
Exactly.
that's why they're on the field so much. To your point,
Mhm.
I'm not expecting a massive Caleb Williams breakout, but with Keenan
Right.
Allen also out injured, Odunze dealing with a knee, I think this could be DJ Moore season today. So I'm with you on that one. Okay, moving down here, Jamie, 54CB, and help if I clicked it better. There we go. He picked up Whitehead and replaced Bynum, and he wants to know our thoughts on it. Would you?
Smart. This was kind of the worry about Bynum. He was playing a ton of deep free safety even last year, but somehow was just coming away with all the crap ton of tackles. But this is why defensive back, you don't marry yourself to a guy, or just because of he was a hot pickup for everyone last year, right? But the turnover is so great, and he's playing almost exclusively deep free safety this year. Um, so that is absolutely the right move, the smart move. Yeah, you can't marry yourself to these guys based on what they did the previous year. So totally fine.
Steve, do you know what the repeat rate is year over year on average for top 12 safeties? How many repeat in the top 12 year over year?
It might be what, two or three.
3. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
correct. And so different schemes, different defensive coordinators, injuries to the teams, et cetera.
Mhm,
So not running backs are only about 5.5, by the way. So
mhm,
interestingly enough, so that's why you never draft last year's best team, and particularly at a position like safety or cornerback. Cornerback repeat rates are just as low. That's why don't go after these guys, and that's why when we're talking about Kyle Hamilton earlier, I wasn't losing too much sleep about benching him for the other
right,
options
true.
that I forgot whoever had. I can't remember who it was. My apologies. Okay, moving on to the next question, though. Another good one. Petrie, who this year I predict is a top 5 safety because of how they're using him, or Blackman.
Yeah, he's getting the slot role, right? Like,
He's playing very, very little free safety. He's been playing a lot of box and a lot of slots. So he's playing that third linebacker slash slot, and absolutely love that. Got off to a slow start week 1, did Petrie, but he had 10 tackles last week. But
mhm.
Blackman had a great week 1 as well. Talked about all the damage that's running through the Colts defense for Blackman and Cross to clean up on the back end. Who are you feeling out of those two? I feel good about both of them. It's a little bit
Yeah,
of a coin
again,
flip.
very strong options here, but yeah, I'm gonna go Petrie on this one. Just because I think that game could pan out where a lot of fireworks potentially. Both these teams coming out of the gate pretty strong, pretty hot this year. So I think it could not only be close the whole way, but high scoring the whole way, which generally should set up a good game script for a guy like Petrie and where they're playing him. So yeah, I like him.
All right, excellent. All righty. So then moving on, and Evan, you are welcome. We're glad to help. That's why we're here. We're here to help you win your weeks in leagues overall. Okay, next up, Eric Kendrick, Zach Bond, or Logan Wilson. He didn't say to pick one necessarily. Let's rank the 3 of them, Steve. So if you had to pick between Kendricks and Bond and Wilson, where are you going?
Let me see here. Oops, I'm on the wrong tab here. I want to give you who our rankings have them. So Wilson 15th, Bond 24th, Kendricks 11th. So we've got a Kendricks, Wilson, Bond. Officially, that's just one ranker. That our person who does linebackers. So that's how our official weekly rankings look this week. I think I'm I think I'm pretty good with that actually. Now Bond, so it's another like ceiling versus floor play, right? So I agree with the rankings in general. So Kendricks, Wilson, Bond, but could Bond go off? Revenge game narrative against the Saints. The offense is humming, so he's probably going to be on the field a lot. I could see sneaking Bond in over Wilson as a higher ceiling play. Wilson and Kendricks are both going to give you great floors. Kendricks, even you could uh, make an argument for sneaking Bond in over because he's old and I feel like he keeps getting banged up even already and like is missing time and missing snaps due to nagging small injuries here. So I agree with the rankings being Kendricks, Wilson, Bond, but I could make arguments for sneaking Bond in if you want sort of a ceiling play. So if we're just picking one, I'm probably going to go with Kendricks there. But if you need like 2 out of the 3, you could make a case for sneaking Bond in over both of them.
I agree with you. And the Saints are running the ball a lot with Kubiak as a new offensive coordinator. And not just when it gets late in the game and they've got a big lead. They've been running heavily throughout the game. So I do like Bond from that regard. So there's definitely an argument for Kendricks, Wilson, and Bond. But my gut says, particularly in the quote revenge game, I'm going to lean towards Bond and Wilson for my 2.
Yeah,
So
love
so
it.
you've got some great choices there,
Yeah.
late night Toker, but you can tell that Steve wants to get Bond in there. It's not just
I
because
know.
he's an Eagles guy. So I think Bond and Wilson.
And Dallas could blow out the Giants easily, and they, preserve Kendrick. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's a really tough
Dallas has
decision.
Baltimore this week.
Oh, am I? Oh, it skipped ahead. Sorry. Baltimore. That's right. Okay. So yeah, actually that game should be close. So there's a reason why Kendricks is up top there.
Yep, agreed. Okay, so Richard Malone has another embarrassment of riches and he's asking who should he drop out of this crew? I think I'm dropping the edge guy, Mafe, out of all these folks.
Boy, holy crap! Yeah.
I'm probably trying to do a trade if I can.
Yeah, unless sacks are, even if sacks are stacked to 10 points or more, this is a incredible group. I don't know how many you get to start, but yeah, and Ernest Jones, I know people would look to him, but he just played 100% of the snaps, so I think he's ready to really gear up there. Yeah, I agree. It's pretty easily Mafe of that group, unless sacks are worth like 20 points or something.
Yeah, exactly right. I agree with you on that. Rougarou did say he thought Jacksonville would be a top 10 offense when he drafted Trevor Lawrence. I think a lot of people would agree with you on that. So nothing to be sad about. A lot of people thought that. So we'll see. Shawn Teague, one of our he's normally on the show, but he had to work a little bit, so I think he's trying to tune in as he's working. So Shawn, thanks for the support, and unfortunately I miss having you here telling you when you're wrong, but look forward to having you back next week on the show, my friend, and thanks for being there with us. All right, so Late Night has one more question for us, and it is Carson Steele or Chuba Hubbard for the flex? Injuries have hit me hard, and yes, injuries have hit a lot of people hard, and you're not alone, and you have one heck of a tough choice here.
Let me see what our oops. All right, Chuba's way at the bottom. All right, we do have Hubbard significantly above Steele in our rankings, and I think that makes the most sense. But man, this is
you were just toting how much Andy Dalton's going to do for that Carolina offense, Steve.
I know. I couldn't see it, but Vegas just has such a tough defense. Oh man, who's giving up more points? Yeah, Vegas is a pretty good matchup for running back too. So give me Chuba, however you say his name, over. I just got to see first how this Kansas City situation is gonna shake out, and I feel like it's gonna be incredibly. I don't think we're gonna get a lot of answers, unfortunately. I think we're gonna see the split that everyone is expecting, and I think it's gonna be wildly game script dependent. If Kansas City is blowing them out, maybe they give Steele, more carries. But if it's tight, especially they need to throw it more, P. Ryan's going to be on the field more. So it just got to see more from how it's going to shake out. Goal lines, who are they going to give goal line opportunities to? And so until that happens, give me the guy we at least sort of know what his role is there, despite, the offense in general being bad. But it has to go up, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Unfortunately, Bryce Young, I'm not so sad that a former Alabama quarterback is struggling, to be honest with you. But I think Dalton is going to be a significant upgrade for them. And so, people were enamored by the fact that he's playing for Kansas City. But remember, he was an undrafted free agent. He's more of a fullback type. He doesn't have blazing speed. Can they trust him in pass protection? I can see him starting per se and having that official title, but by the end, I'm not shocked if P. Ryan has the most snaps for sure. I'm going to Hubbard with this one as well, Late Night.
Which means Steele's going to have 2 touchdowns and like 40 yards.
No, don't do that to Late Night and have him stressing over this decision.
I guarantee that happens. Like 2 1 yard. Like Mahomes will chug it. Kelsey will get tackled on the one. Worthy will get tackled on the one, and they'll just hammer it in with Steele. Like, that's what I mean. Like, but you're never gonna, and then next week he'll have only 40 yards with no touchdowns, and it's going to be so frustrating to have these guys without dominating the snaps. Like, it's just going to be insane.
Yeah, actually, with the limited usage that Kelsey's had these first couple of weeks,
yeah,
if there's a 1-yard touchdown to be had, it's going to be him or Noah Gray.
Yeah,
that's how I see
true.
this play.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think they want to give Kelsey a little bit love. All righty. In late night, you are certainly welcome. We wish you the best. One more from Nate Cheatham, our co-owner here. Nathan giving me grief about Joe Burrow in my week 1 call on that one, which didn't turn out so well. So that's okay. Against the Washington secondary, one of my sons asked me, do I start Jamar Chase or T. Higgins? Do I really do both? And I said, absolutely. Put them both in your lineup against those Washington Commanders. So that looks like that is it for the questions, and we're right at the top of the hour. So beautiful. Steve, let everybody know real quick where they can find you, and we'll wrap things up here.
Yeah, right there on the screen. I live on Twitter at Dynasty Santa. DMs are open, and I'm not verified, so I think that means anybody can DM me at any time. So I love helping. If you can't make it here, just find me on Twitter there, and I'm always being a goofball on there. And just trying to help wrangle and herd the cats here from a content perspective, getting out rankings and articles every week. So really excited for another awesome season.
And I'm at Ricky Rod 66, so that's where you can find me. And but go to IDP Plus, folks. We have some incredible. You might have heard, Steve looking up things like matchups and how certain teams do against certain positions in terms of number of tackles or points that they give up and so forth. That's just yet another tool. We have also 3 YouTube channels. Check out our betting channel, which is wide open for everybody to watch and listen to. A lot of people are making a lot of money off of that, both on pro and college. So check that out as well. Glad to have you on our main channel here for fantasy. And we wish you all a fantastic week. Bring home that championship, everybody, but start it off with a win this week. Take care. Steve, thanks again for being a terrific partner this week. Appreciate it, buddy. And see y'all later. Bye.